Hey, this is Todd. Today I'm a little bit more awake. I apologize for my last video. I realized probably shouldn't have done it at 4 a.m. I probably should have waited until a little bit later. I'm gonna try and do this really quickly. So there's been obviously the rumors about the Z6S and the Z7S cameras coming out or being officially announced around October. And also there's some rumors about new lenses to come. So I'm going to really quickly just go through the roadmap that is officially on Nikon's website. So, the lenses that have either been already announced or released, we have, of course, the 58mm f/0.95 S lens, costs as much as a small car. We have the 20mm f/1.8 lens. A lot of people are very excited about that one. 24mm f/1.8. Okay, 35mm 1.8. These are all S lines. 50mm 1.8, 85mm 1.8. Most of those lenses, if not all, are already out. And then also on the telephoto side, there's the 24 to 70 f/2.8 lens already out. 70 to 200mm f/2.8 lens, I believe, already out. It's definitely been announced. 14 to 30 f/4, 24 to 70 f/4, the kit lens that basically comes with the camera. And then on the DX side, you have the 16 to 50, 3.5 to 6.3, the 50 to 250 to 4.5 to 6.3. Both of those also basically kit lenses that come with the camera, as well as the 24 to 200 millimeter. Sorry, excuse me, this is not the DX. The 24 to 200 millimeter f/4 to 6.3 is for the FX line. Okay, so those are officially announced, as in they're coming or they've been released. Now, officially on the roadmap, that it's basically going to be announced soon, presumably, or officially going to be announced at some point anyways. We have the 50mm f/1.2 lens. I'm sure a lot of professionals will be very excited about that. I'm sure it's going to be fairly expensive. I don't think it will be as expensive as the 58mm. It should be half or less. We also have a 28mm, doesn't say aperture, a 40mm, doesn't say aperture, listed as compact prime lenses. And then we also have a zoom lens, a 14 to 24 f/2.8, a 24 to 105, no aperture listed on that, a 100 to 400mm, no aperture listed on that one. And then in the DX side, we have an 18 to 140mm, and again, no aperture listed on that. And then a presumably FX, and doesn't look like it's an S line, but a 200 to 600mm. That's an interesting lens, and I'm not going to speculate on that, but that could be a potentially very interesting lens. So those are the official lenses. Now they can change their mind and not release them or change them slightly. But then most of this is from a petapixel.com, but it's also on other various rumor sites. So this is their list of a mix of the official lenses that have been announced or are going to be announced, combined with the rumors, not their own, but rumors that they supposedly from a reliable source that they're coming out. So again, we have the 35 1.8, we have the 50 1.8, 24 to 70 f/4 kit, 85 1.8, 24 f/1.8. I'm going to go really fast till I get to the new-ish, rumor-ish ones. 58.95, 14 to 30 f/4, 24 to 70 f/2.8, 70 to 200 f/2.8, 20 to 20 f/1.8, 50 1.2. 135 1.8. So there we go. 135 f/1.8 is actually, was that on the official one? Yeah, I believe it was. Yeah, so that one actually is supposedly coming out this year. And that one I'll get into a little bit more later here. But as for Petapixel, let's see here. So, and then also so that's 2020, that one. 2021, a 105 1.8S, and the 135 was an S, if I didn't say that. 28 f/1.8S, a 65 1.8S, and a 35 1.2S. And then there's also 14, of course they're all Nikkor, a 14 to 24 millimeter f/2.8. Did that get released? No, I don't think so. That's the S. 28 to 70 f2.8 to 3.5s, so and a 24 to 120 f4 lens. So I think on that one it's probably something similar to the kit lens with a little bit more reach. It'd probably be a pretty popular lens. And then also 28 to 280 millimeter f2.8 to f5.6s, also an interesting lens. 100 to 300 millimeter f4s. So really quickly to touch base on this, there's a couple here that are not on the list that I compiled last night. The 28 to 280 millimeter f2.8 to 5.6s I didn't list, and that's an interesting lens. That's got a lot of reach, but is also fairly wide. f2.8 on the wide end and presumably on the long end. 5.6, it's pretty reasonable, and I think that'd be a popular that'd be a really good vacation lens for anyone who is also doing, you know, maybe if you're going to a nature reserve, or if you like to do bird spotting, things like that. That's a really useful all-around lens, I think. And the 24 to 120 f4 I also don't think is on my list, and that is also you know, similar, not as much reach, but interesting. The 28 to 70 f2.8, to me that's not that interesting, except for that it is 3 to 3.5. It could be interesting. That could be an interesting lens. I'm not going to speculate on what they might put into that, but we'll see. But I gathered another list from another site the other night, and most of them are the same lenses. And just to tell you a little bit of my thoughts on some of the lenses that maybe stood out to me, you know, some of these are probably not going to be affordable for a lot of people, and probably me included. And a real quick note on these first few, they're f1.2 lenses. For me personally, f1.8 is all you need. I'm filming with an f1.8 Tamron lens right now, a 35 millimeter, and f1.8, it gives you plenty of bokeh. And if you need more, you know, I'm sure there are some professionals that they're justifiably wanting that extra little bit. But in general, I mean, f1.8 on a full frame is razor thin, and f1.2, yeah, it's a little bit more, but it's really hard to control, and that little extra bit of bokeh is barely noticeable, in my opinion, in most situations. So keeping that in mind, these I'm sure are going to be great lenses. There's a 35 millimeter f1.2 lens that I mentioned, a 50 1.2, and an 85 1.2. Big question for these is going to be not only how much do they cost, but do they have stabilization? And are there other improvements to the overall feel and the fly-by-fire? Fly-by-fire. I would love to be able to fly by fire. How about you? No, the fly-by-wire focus system. So it's not a big deal for a lot of people, but to me, I don't actually like the feel of most of the Z lenses focus ring. Compared to Tamron lenses, for example, I think the Tamron stand out as being a lot better. But just to give you a little backstory, I'm coming from a Micro Four Thirds system. Before this, I used Panasonic cameras as well as Yi and Z-Cam. So for me, though, my best of the best lenses was the Voigtlander 17.5.95. Yeah, it's 2 a.m. today. It's not 4 a.m. I'm still a little tired. You know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. Most of you know anyways. The 17.5 millimeter f0.95 aperture lens. And that lens, if you are not sure what a really nice focus ring or aperture ring is supposed to feel like, go find that lens. I'm sure you can still find it new in some shops, and I'm sure you might be able to find some other photographers in your area that would let you play with it for a day maybe. But it's like silk on butter. It's just so smooth when you turn it. I mean, I rarely refer to any sort of inanimate technology as sexy, but that's a damn sexy lens. And I since kind of judge all other lenses against that. And I found some that are almost identical, actually, from the 50s and 60s, are the Asahi, I believe Pentax, old Asahi lenses, and I have a few of those, and it's the same style, almost looks like the same lens. I have a 200 millimeter and a 50 millimeter. The 200 millimeter especially is very similar shape and feel, and it has the same clickless aperture, which is awesome. So, and it's something also that is not just Nikon, but Tamron even, they've started removing aperture rings on the lens and just letting the camera handle that. And I think that's a mistake. For photography, sure, but especially if you're marketing a camera as a video-centric camera, that's something you might actually use on set, you need the aperture ring. And sure, there's an argument to be made that you should just get cinema glass. But first of all, there's not really any cinema glass. There's not really any cinema glass for the Nikon system yet. And either way, I think including a lens that is sort of a hybrid photo video lens with aperture ring, clickless aperture ring, stepless, is really the way that most of these camera companies doing video-centric cameras should be going right now. But I get it. I understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, but I think it's a slight faux pas. So that in mind, well, let's just move forward. So then there's the 135 f1.8, which I did mention from Petapixel's website, and the 105. Now those to me are really interesting. I'm a fan of that 100 to 135 millimeter range because it's actually really good for portraits, especially if you want to slim someone's face or something down just to even a little more, compress the image. But it's also really good for candid street photography where you want a little more distance from your subject so they don't necessarily know you're taking their picture, or, you know, just signs in the distance or whatever. I live in Tokyo, so there's a lot of things, a lot of angles, raised angles and stuff, and if you're too far away with the 85 millimeter, you have to crop in way too much and lose a lot of detail. So it's really useful, and also for nature situations where you want a little extra reach. Maybe, you know, again, referring to Japan, there's a lot of little nature parks where you can get fairly close to the nature. They're really used to people moving around them and stuff, birds and ducks and whatever. So, and also on those lenses, 1.8, that's awesome. The fact that they're 1.8 with that length is going to give you some super shallow, really nice bokeh. And it also lets you obviously capture some really low light situations. And again, for candid shots, that's awesome. So there's also the 28 millimeter f1.8, and I'm sure for a lot of people that's going to be an interesting one. And exactly what they're looking for. For me personally, I prefer the 35 millimeter, and if I need something a little bit wider, I want at least 20 millimeter or wider. My favorite wide lens right now is actually the 11 millimeter Irix. I have the Blackstone version. I did a couple walk around videos with that, and I'm going to do some more soon that hopefully won't be as lengthy and will be a little more polished. So then let's see what else. There's also the 65 millimeter 1.8 lens coming, and that is also interesting. I think that for a lot of people it would be a really good substitute for a 50 millimeter. I personally am not that inspired by 50 millimeters. Even my Asahi one that I said is kind of like the Voigtlander in feel, it's a great lens and actually really sharp lens, but it's just something about that 50 millimeter length where, you know, it just doesn't do it for me. I would rather have a 35 a little wider, or an 85 a little bit deeper, longer. That's what she said. But if I were to carry around my 35 and perhaps a 135 f1.8 that's going to be released, a 65 millimeter I think would be an awesome third lens to carry around. So cutting out the 85 millimeter, cutting out a 50 millimeter. That would be a really cool trio if you just want to carry primes around for day photography, for street photography, for vacation even. And of course, the weight's going to be really interesting to see with these lenses. Hopefully they're not too heavy, but I'm one of those people that I'm usually willing to sacrifice weight. I'd rather have quality and weight versus a light lens that's sacrificing things. That being said, I personally don't carry around bags full of heavy lenses and gear these days anymore. I used to do that and I just got burnt out doing that. So, you know, I'm hoping they're reasonably light, but at the same time, if I had the option to just carry 2 lenses around that were extremely beautiful, I would choose that over the 3 that are maybe so-so. So yeah, those are some of the more interesting lenses I think for me on that list. A lot of those telezooms I didn't really realize were coming, or rumored to be coming. But yeah, anything else here that was really standing out? So yeah, again, officially on Nikon's roadmap, there's that 200 to 600 millimeter. That will be interesting. It's probably going to be something more like an f5.6 or something like that, similar to Tamron or Sigma's offering, or the older Nikon offerings. Who knows though? I mean, you could make a 2.8, but it's going to be huge and heavy. Be interesting to see. I doubt it. I doubt it, but you never know. The 40 millimeter too, that was one that was on Nikon's site, which is not listed on the other sites. 40 millimeter, that would be a nice lens. I imagine that's gonna be like an f2. And 40 millimeter for me is slightly more inspiring than 50 millimeter. It's basically a 35 with just a tiny bit more reach. So let's see here. So yeah, so that's for them. For petapixel, anything else that was really interesting to me? Yeah, the 100 to 300 millimeter, the 28 to 280. See, that's interesting. 2.8 to f5.6. That's interesting right there. So basically that's it. I think that we're really gonna have to wait and see what's true and what's not. And the nice thing is though that Nikon has officially said they're speeding up the pace that they're gonna release some of these lenses. So hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of them released soon. I'd imagine with the Z6S and the Z7S, presuming that that is true and all signs pointing to that being true. Although I haven't found that officially on Nikon's site yet. If you know where that is, let me know. I haven't seen an official release. I've seen people claiming that it's been officially announced for October, but I haven't actually seen the official release myself. But presuming that's right, and usually some of those sources are correct, I think that they're likely going to release a new kit lens, and I would imagine the 24 to 120 might be a candidate for that. That's listed as a 220 release date on the official Nikon site. So that, or maybe the 28 to 70, although the 28 to 70 is at 2.8. They don't generally release a 2.8 for a kit, though they should. Yeah, I think that 24 to 120 is a very likely candidate for a kit lens. A dual set, I'm not really seeing anything, unless they did the 24 to 120 and the 100 to 300, which is scheduled for 2021, as that's also an f4 lens. That actually would make a lot of sense. Yeah, something like that. Or the already released 14 to 30 f4 with the 24 to 120 f4. But that 14 to 30, if I'm not mistaken, is pretty pricey, so that seems pretty unlikely. So, okay, that's it though. I think I'm going to wrap this up before I ramble on and talk more about, what was it, space weed? No, not space weed, cinema weed. Cinema grass. Yeah, no ambiguity there anymore, is there? So yeah, I'm just going to wrap this up. But I'm really going to try and release more stuff, you guys, more often. I'm going to try and put a little more energy and thought into it. But at the same time, I got into a cycle where I was over-preparing, not only with studio and lighting. This is Studio B, we'll call it. Downstairs is what I built up to be really fancy studio, but I realized it was just too much maintenance because it was actually the main living space and things just got moved around too much. So that, and also just over preparing scripts and stuff like that. I would love to look into your eyes here, your beautiful eyes. I can see them. You're beautiful, aren't you? Did anyone ever tell you? No? I'm here to tell you you're beautiful. But it would never work between us. First of all, I'm in Japan, and you're likely in the US or Europe, and I don't think you guys are allowed to come here anymore. But if you were, I'm sorry, I'm taken. Unless. Okay, no, seriously, no stalkers, please. So, shit. Here I go again. So yeah, I've been over prepping and over scripting, and I think I just need to focus more on getting it out there, whether you like it or not. Honestly, I won't say I don't care, but I don't care that much. I want to be able to up my skills, and I think the only way for me to do that right now is to put content out there and watch it myself, learn from my mistakes. It's kind of weird because I know how to be really professional, but I also know how much fucking work that is. So I'm trying to find a happy medium where I can be a slacker and actually get you guys useful information or show you some really beautiful places, something you enjoy. And so I would appreciate some feedback. Let me know the things you like, the things you don't. Don't look at me to be somebody that's not going to offend you, because I probably will. Don't look at me to be perfect with my vocabulary, my wording. I'll do my best, but I'm really sick of that. I really want to just kind of go like this and do my flow. And what do you know? So shit. All right. Will I put that in the video or not? That's the question. How true will I be with you? How true will you be with me? I think that's all we need in this world, is a little more truth. And I think that it's a lot of bullshit right now on all sides of the fence. People have gotten way too comfortable with bullshit. So let's be the knife, be the BS knife, and just cut through that shit. You with me? All right. So that's it, and I think the next thing I'm going to be doing is another walkthrough with the IRIX 11mm lens. I'll probably go to my favorite park or maybe another little nature spot around here. There's lots of them. I am still considering selling that lens and getting the Tamron 15 to something or other 35, or even the 10 to 24 DX lens, because on this camera it would be a nice little light setup. And yeah, we'll see. But either way, I want to get out, and I need the exercise, honestly. So you're coming along with me whether you like it or not, bitches. Let's do a clean take of that. So you're coming along whether or not you like it. Just come along for the ride. I promise some beautiful scenery. If you don't like what I'm saying, or if you get sick of hearing my voice, just mute me. I should probably, maybe Facebook can put a little like app where you can just put like some, like, someone else's face over me. David Hasselhoff, Emilio Estevez, some other star that most of you kids have never heard of. So yeah, so that's it. That really has got to be it, right? So thanks for watching, and please keep an eye out for my other reviews. Don't forget to hit that like button if you like this. If you don't like it, nah, I love y'all, but seriously, I could do without the negativity, but I expect it. I mean, it's YouTube. What are you gonna do? So that's it. Peace.